everybody, and welcome to Fireside Paranormal Podcast. My name is Jordan Cline. Just a little bit about me. I hosted a paranormal radio show and podcast for many years. I started back in 2008, and it was a show called Whispers. We had a decent amount of success, and I was able to have some really interesting conversations with some of the leaders and legends in the paranormal field. I took a little bit of a hiatus, and after that, I wanted to get back on the air and share some new experiences with all of you, and that's where Fireside Paranormal Podcast came to be. With this show, really, we want to talk about hauntings, ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and really everything in between. And I believe everybody has a story to tell, and I can't wait to hear yours. I'll have a guest on every week, but I'd also love to hear from you. Email me your stories. If you want to record it and, send an email that way so you can actually, talk, I can put you on the air with it. And we can definitely figure something out. The email address is firesideparanormalpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to be on the show, if you have any guest requests, also, just feel free to reach out. All right, I want to get this started. Come sit with me by the fire as we welcome Steve Hummel. From a young age, Steve recalls being captivated by ghost stories and paranormal-related television shows. And after experiencing a few unexplained events as a young boy, his interest in the paranormal solidified into a life's passion. Steve spent 14 years conducting historical and paranormal tours at the former West Virginia State Penitentiary. This is where Steve met his best friends and co-producers of Paranormal Quest, that's their YouTube channel, Dave Gear, Ryan Zackrell, and Jason McKinney. Steve has been involved with countless paranormal cases, both public knowledge and private. And since October of 2011, Steve has collected hundreds of residually charged and spiritually haunted items for his museum known as the Archive of the Afterlife, the National Museum of the Paranormal. Stephen is ordained as a minister in the Christian faith, with his focus based on spiritual cleansing and demonology. He bases this spiritual warfare calling from his studies at Warner University and Omega Bible Institute and Seminary. Steve's passion and interest for helping those in need stems from demonic attacks that a family member fell victim to at a very young age. Some of Steve's experience and involvement includes having been featured in the Wall Street Journal, on Destination America's Ghost Asylum, Travel Channel, Paranormal Caught on Camera, A&E's My Ghost Story, Paranormal Quest, This Is Reality, Haunted Magazine UK, International Paranormal Inquisitor as a writer, numerous internet radio shows, podcasts, and paranormal events. Steve, are you with us?
Yes, sir.
Man, Steve, you got a pretty impressive resume going on there.
Well, it's been a while working on it.
So, I guess where do we could start off with, like, how did you get started? What was it that really, lit your fire?
Well, I think like a lot of people, it started at a very young age. As far back as I can remember, especially when I was a little kid, I always was interested in ghost stories. Loved Halloween. Loved just the season, the energy of the whole month, pretty much of October, really. Shoot, I remember sitting in my grade school classes waiting for the Scholastic Book Fair to come through to get the new books of R.L. Stine's Goosebumps.
Oh my gosh, yes. I was actually just talking to my wife yesterday, and just thinking about
collection.
You really?
Yeah, I do.
Oh man, I was talking to what really was it that got me started? Like, how far back, and I was thinking, okay, like Goosebumps was a for sure. Weekly World News.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you ever did that. I had to have every week Weekly World News from the grocery store. I mean, even down to Scooby-Doo. Like, I watched Scooby-Doo,
oh yeah,
religiously as I was younger.
And Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah.
Ghostbusters on TV. I think a lot of people, especially, it seems like my age. I think we're pretty much the same age. I would.
Yeah, I'll be 37 this month.
I'm 38.
Yeah.
I think we had a lot of material, if you will, to build. I think to establish that foundation of interest in ghosts and stuff like that, from TVs, the books, to TV shows, to books and toys and stuff like that. So I think the cards were stacked against us to begin with.
Now,
it got to be, I think, more.
Now you worked at the penitentiary. giving
Yeah.
tours. How long did you do that?
Um, shoot, 14, 15. I'd say upwards of 14 to 15 years tops.
So you spent
All
quite a lot
all
of time
parts.
there. Did you
Yeah,
ever experience anything
and
like on a tour? Because you gave the historic tours too, not just the paranormal tours.
yeah, and it might have been a little bit longer than that too, because there's a year or two prior to me being the tour guide there that I was one of the volunteer actors for their haunted house.
Oh.
And then I started actually working there, and then we're still working the haunted house, of course, but because they wanted their employees to work the haunted house, during October. So I'd say over 15 years being involved in or out with that the prison here in Moundsville. But yeah, there's a lot of things happen during day tours and night tours, even during the haunted house that were sometimes unnerving, but you know, certain people, I guess, that just builds more and more curiosity. I think.
Now, what kind of things in the haunted house? Like, because a lot of it's staged, obviously. You
Right.
want a safe
Hmm.
environment to get spooky season going. Like, what kind of like real happenings kind of happened during those? Can you share any of those stories?
Yeah, I think if I recall, they'd always hope to have 40 to 50 some people uh, be hired on for actors
Mm-hmm.
to run the haunt. It's a big haunted house. It's a big undertaking. A lot of time and energy goes into that, the planning, the design, and everything. But a lot of the actors, and there were some actors that would come to work, and all of a sudden they wouldn't come back to work, and they would leave early, and then people would find out through word of mouth the reason they didn't come back is because they saw something or they were touched, scratched, maybe pushed, or felt that something was altering their state of mind
Oh
in,
wow.
in a way. Because I mean, you got to think. I've been in theater a lot too, especially at the Capitol Music Hall for the He's Alive play. I've been in it. Of course, it's been with COVID. We haven't had it for the last couple like year or two. But when you're taking on a character, especially if it's Halloween, some people may not realize it, or some people do that. When you get into more of a method type of acting style, that where you're working might be affecting what you're taking on character wise.
Mm.
So if you're working a haunted house, you're playing a homicidal maniac, and you're working in one of the most violent prisons in the United history of the United States, the problems can happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're
So
kind of like stirring
you
that
have to
energy
be
up.
correct. And I know looking back, there's the earlier years, the first few years, I realize now that that it definitely affected me that way. It changes. I remember everyone came in laughing, joking, having a good time, wanting to get their get to their place and act and scare people because when you're a haunted, that's what you want to do. You want to scare people.
Yeah.
You want to entertain people. But when you're taking on characters that are bad in nature, and you're trying to do that in a place that's bad in nature, it definitely it can change you for that point in time. So absolutely, there's a lot of experiences that I've had day and or night there that a lot of them it's hard not to forget them. You know,
Wow. Now, did were you into ghost hunting before working there, or is that something that kind of stemmed it?
I was always interested in ghosts, if you will, and ghost stories and stuff. But it wasn't until I got there that I met other people who were into ghost hunting, and that pretty much brings me to meeting Polly Gear and Dave Gear and Ryan and Jason. Um, After being brought on there to work tours and do a little bit of maintenance at the prison there originally, before I just went straight on for all night tours,
Mm-hmm.
working as one of the tour guides for that. I got there and I met Polly, who has a group called Mountaineer Paranormal, and her son Dave. Um, they would come up once a month to volunteer on the public ghost hunts as volunteer tour guides. You see, Polly Gear, at that time when I met her, she had been already investigating for like over 20 some years at that point.
Oh yeah,
before
that's
it was
some
a
experience
popular
then.
thing to do. I mean, she's the one who took the Shadow Man picture, May 7th, 2004, in
Which
the
is
Ray
like a
corridor down.
famous picture now, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's many more of them now, but it's the one that helped put that place on the map.
Wow.
And actually, the fun thing is, I gave her one of my paintings and traded for the actual camera that she took the picture with. It's in my museum now. It has a picture of her Shadow Man picture with it and everything.
That's amazing.
And it's just, she's like, "What do you want the camera for?" I said, "It's a part of history." And that's what the museum. That's what I want to do with the museum. Not only collect haunted items, but items that are important to the paranormal field. And give a shout out to the groups and individuals out there who were willing to let me do that. Say, "Hey, this guy does this," and check his website out, check his YouTube channel out, or their group, or check their YouTube channel out. So it's meant to promote, uh, you know, people in the paranormal field. But that's how I pretty much got into investigating, which was through Polly Gear. And then Ryan's mom was dating my boss, and they eventually got married. Then he started working there, volunteering there. That's how I met Ryan, and that's how Ryan met Dave. We all kind of met the triangle situation. And then Jason, we met through Dave because he came up with Mountaineer Paranormal as a guest, as a friend. But at that time, he already had his own paranormal group. And over the course of time, they ended up, did him wrong, and they pretty much just disconnected him from the group. And we were already still talking as friends. Said, "Hey, dude, why don't you just come with us with our because we started a YouTube project from coming out of the Mountaineer Paranormal group.
And
We
is
called
that
it
Paranormal Quest? Okay.
Yeah, and it's just us guys. We'd explain to Paul. I said, "We're not quitting Mountaineer Paranormal. This is our little side project." Because we all loved filmmaking, and we all loved history, and we all loved ghost hunting, and we just wanted to do a little YouTube project to start, sharing our investigations, and that's how PQ or Paranormal Quest got started, and that's how we all pretty much met.
All
When
right.
people
So
ask you,
what
"How'd you get to me?"
with Paranormal Quest, what is it that you guys do? You said it's hunts different from the, your regular group, or is this like a
Yeah,
behind the scenes kind of extra with that group?
Mountaineer Paranormal, I wouldn't say it quite exists anymore,
Okay.
because the original group is not really there anymore. It's just Polly and Renee are really close friends still. Which they've come on a couple of our investigations with us as just, as friends and stuff and guests. PQ is a documentary film series, basically. And we were doing paranormal documentaries before they got popular. There's been a couple of the techniques that we've started using that other people have started using.
Okay. Like
You
what?
know, what we started doing by accident, actually, we call our abandonment technique. And the reason we started doing this abandonment technique, which is basically we set our cameras up, our digital recorders, our proximity meters, whatever we want to use, we set it up, leave it running, and we lock up and leave for about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So just let everything run and let them do, if there's any spirits there, let them do their thing. And we had to do that because this one place we're doing a preliminary investigation for a guy used to be in touch with a good bit named Chris Deadman, and he's a demonologist. He's been on a couple of the TV shows in the past. And he contacted me and he said, "Hey, can you do a preliminary investigation in Moundsville? This family may need help." And he asked us to do a preliminary because he said, "I need to know if is it a legit claim or someone just pulling my chain," because he had to take off work to come up from Kentucky.
Yeah.
So yeah, sure, we'd be happy to, man. Because it's literally a few doors down from the prison where we work. So yeah, no problem. So we get there, and it's supposed to be at this time Dave, Ryan, and I. Jason wasn't with PQ yet. And it was supposed to be us three and two members of the family, which started off that way. Everything was fine. We showed our B-roll, did our interviews, and so on and so forth. And once we got started, this group of like 7 to 8 women just show up, friends of the family. And they're thinking, they're going to investigate as well, and they're pulling out bags of potato chips, open up pop cans, and I mean, just total crapshoot at this point. So I got kind of irritated. I said, "Everyone needs to shut up and get the heck out of here." I said, "You contacted us. We're taking time off work today and tomorrow. We're taking this serious. It's serious time investment that we're doing here. So what we did, we got the idea. We had a DVR system at the time, which thank goodness we're not using that anymore. That was a pain in the butt. So yeah, all the DVR set up, digital recorders running. That's all we had at the time. We didn't have any K2s really or anything like that. And we set a tripod with a DVR camera right in front of the front door. There's no in and out points in the basement. And all you have was the back door. So that's the back door that we all left out of. Ryan was the last one out. And he said, if anyone has something to say, go right ahead. We're going to leave now. And then he had already locked the door and he shut it. We walked all the way down to the south part area of the prison. We're just sitting on the outside wall for about an hour. And all these women there talking and this and that. But, when we went back through the recordings, Ryan called me at like 2 in the morning. He woke me up, and I thought something was wrong, like he got hurt or something. He said, dude, you wouldn't believe what we got. You wouldn't believe what we got. I'm like, at first I'm like, who is this? And he says, and we always joke about it still. But the funny thing is, because we were doing interviews and they talked about there's they called a mean man, but there was a little girl spirit as well. But when Ryan said we're leaving now, and he closed and locked the door in the recording, you hear it. About a minute later, you hear a little girl's voice, crystal clear, Class A EVP, that tell them what. And farther back in the recording, an adult woman's voice goes, "We don't do that.
Oh,
we don't talk to them."
dude, chills.
And it blew our mind because this is the first time we've ever heard. I'm not saying it's not the only time that ever happened, but for us, it was the first time we experienced two spirits talking to themselves in regards to what Ryan asked. And all three of our recorders picked it up. It was just, and after that, we started doing abandonment like that because we've gotten some of our best evidence just setting recorders up and letting them do their thing, giving them some space.
Yeah, I can attest to that as well. We had a similar thing that we used to do when I was in a active group, and there was one a local college that had us come out, and it was no students there. It was just us and a police officer, and we shut up shop for an hour, and we ordered pizza and just stood outside, and man, that hour of audio was the most intense audio I think I've ever gotten from any investigation. And it completely.
I think most of the time when things do happen, they're not. No one else is there. It happens when no one else is, really in the room or around. So it makes sense.
That's crazy. I remember we getting,
really
because like when water turns on, it can be from water pressure. But when your water turns on and turns off and turns off, something's making it happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now, how do people find Paranormal Quest?
Easiest thing, jump right on Facebook or YouTube and look up Paranormal Quest. Of course, you go to the Facebook page. The YouTube link's right there, and also the website link is right there on the Facebook page.
All right, Paranormal Quest. Get out there and check it out. Now, I want to talk about your museum because I think this is incredibly fascinating, and it was, I think, minutes after I posted that you were going to be on, I had somebody calling me saying, "Hey, we want to see that museum." So.
Oh, cool! Awesome.
If you hear any vehicles back here, I am recording outside of my house because it's a beautiful, beautiful afternoon. So mind the trucks driving by. So tell me about the museum. How did you get started in it? I know you recently moved locations, but what's the ultimate goal?
Yeah. Well, when I originally started it, I never planned on it making the 10-year anniversary, which is this month. So as of October 1st, it's 10 years old.
Well, congratulations. That's a big deal.
I appreciate it. Thank you. At the time I started it, I still had my gym, and I had a little diner side by side on Jefferson Avenue here in Moundsville. And in the diner building, had a small poker room, and I didn't know what to do with it. And then after a trip with Dave and Ryan to Gettysburg, we went to this little, kind of like a little spiritualist paranormal oddities museum. And it was a few bucks to get in, and they had some cool pictures around. You could buy some equipment, and couple haunted things. Maybe they had a really old, cool-looking Ouija board. It's called the International Museum of Spiritual Investigations. That's what it was called. And after looking around, I said, "Shoot, I could do something like this, something kind of fun, give it my own twist, you know." And being that, I was a tour guide at the prison already, I can hand out coupons on my tours to people, send them down there to get something to eat, check out the museum, and like I'm gonna hustle this a little bit, and so I honestly, I'd say the room was about 10 foot by 14 foot, if that. Actually, no, it's probably smaller than that. It's probably, yeah, maybe 10, 14 or so. And I budgeted $50 to start it on. And what I did is I started collecting old frames from like yard sales for like 25 cents, 50 cents, or going to Walmart and getting those little 2 or 3 pack clip frames for like $2 or $3. And then I started collecting people's opinions, local ghost stories, anything involving paranormal investigating or research. And I started putting that in the museum. And then not too long after that, this jewelry stores went out of business. So I bought a few of their cases because I had built up some money. I was keeping my tip money from the prison tours, and then just reinvesting it into the museum that way. And started filling them up with like just oddities and stuff I could think of, because pretty soon I'd be out doing tours, come back to the diner building in the gym after my tours were over, and one of my volunteers would say, "Hey, this doll was dropped off. It was creeping a lady out." I would get donations, and unfortunately, with some of the dolls, they wouldn't think to ask them what the backstory was. I always did if I was there.
Mm-hmm.
So I started getting a few haunted items here and there, and then sometimes on some of the investigations, I was able to get something from a location. Of course, with permission, I'd ask the people, or sometimes they'd say, "Hey, could you take this out of the house if it lessens the activity?" And I wouldn't hear back from them, but I'd leave my name and number, and I wouldn't hear back from them, which I assumed it helped in some way, form, or fashion. And then I also feel, being around, the type of energy, as much as I was between being a tour guide, acting in the haunted house, and investigating with my friends, that I think you really you start to become in tune with it. Like you can kind of sense it when you go past places or items and stuff like that. So sometimes I would grab an item from an antique shop just to see if other people who wanted to kind of investigate the museum, I would pick it up to see if any of the teams or individuals investigating would pick up anything off of it as well. And then I started including like local history, local items and stuff like that. I also eventually kind of let my some of my military collection absorb into it as a little side exhibit and stuff like that. So, and now, the house it is now, I'm not sure how long I'm going to be there. I only had like a 2-month time to relocate from the community center we were in because the city closed it up. So it's kind of an emergency move. I really like the house. I'm not too thrilled with where it's at, but at that point, beggars can't be choosers. And I didn't want to be stuck with nowhere to put my stuff, and I didn't realize how much I had until I actually did move to this new location. And it's like a 10 to 11 room house, and there's literally something in every room now.
Oh wow!
And I'm like, it's like I did not have this much stuff. But the nice thing about which I always wanted to do is eventually get a house, again more closer to Moundsville preferably. But I have a room now that's just for dolls. I have a room now just for my asylum and hospital and poor farm items. I have an area right now for my mortuary stuff. I have 2 embalming tables.
Oh wow!
Almost had 3, but I kind of missed the boat on the 3rd one. I didn't have a way to go get it in Clarksburg. So I can actually kind of separate stuff now and keep it kind categorize.
Like
So
they
it's
each
kind
have
of
their
like,
own little station.
yeah, yeah. If I could just take the house where it's at and then airdrop it somewhere else where it's closer to a tourist route, I'd be one happy camper.
Yeah, I'd say it'd be real nice to be right there in the tourist area. Now, where is it now?
The house, it's in Cameron,
In
West
Cameron.
Virginia, at 86 Railroad Street. Which, bright side of that, it's right on the main drag.
Oh, that's nice.
So once you come down into Cameron off of 250, I don't care where the GPS carries you, go 250. It's the best way. Take right up First Street in Moundsville. You'll veer up to your left at the top. That's Route 250. Takes you all the way up to Cameron. It's 18 miles. And then you'll come right down into Cameron, right on 250. You'll hang a right on Railroad Street, and then you'll know you're on the right street. That's up ahead. You'll see Family Dollar to your left, and we're like a big gray house on the right-hand side up from Family Dollar.
You got a big
And
sign out front?
Well, we have the two windows have Archive the Afterlife in gold leaf lettering, and then on the front door it has a Ouija planchette with museum on it and stuff like that. So
Let me ask
a
you
lot of
this.
the locals don't do too much.
Let me ask you this, Steve. What do you think the most, I guess, haunted item or the most interesting storied item that you have?
There's a few of them. Well, we'll go with the dark, creepy stuff. That's probably what people want to hear. We have a 3-foot doll that I got over a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. We call her Hope.
Hope.
And yeah, it's kind of deceiving because don't think it's a little girl that's haunting this doll, because it's something a lot worse. We actually have a room. Like I said, we have rooms now we can kind of categorize in the new place. So we have a room at the end of the hallway on the second floor called the dark room. And those are the items that have malevolent type of energies or demonic energies attached to them. We have a few items in there that are in or used around exorcisms as well. So she stays in that room. She's scratched multiple people. The latest episode that's come out for Paranormal Quest is Hope the Demonic Doll Part 2. So definitely watch the first one first and then watch the second one. And the second one, Dave actually gets 3 scratch marks on his hands while he's pretty much holding a ghost box like right in her face. He was being he was provoking. Basically. And he had 3 scratch marks right across the top of his right hand that was holding the S box that was right in front of her face. And the first one, she moved about 8 to 10 inches. The SLS cam picked it up, and one of her handheld IRs picked it up. And it was...
Like, how did it move? Did it slide?
It just, like...
Get up and walk?
It slid to the left. I wish it got up and walked. That
Ugh.
was amazing. But
that room would have a deadbolt on it.
Oh, it's got a latch on it for right now, but that's because the stupid handle doesn't work that well. But yeah, when you watch the episode, the SLS cam, which was on a tripod, and Jason's cam that he was holding, picked up her moving. And there's actually some profanity that was captured through EVP that was coming, we feel, from her. I will say this, the last, because I'm recalling things bit by bit here. In part 2, when I was asking what its name was, and one of the first things to come across the ghost box was the number 6. So it was a pretty intense investigation.
Let me ask you this, because we have some listeners, I'm sure that are new into the paranormal. When you say that there is an attachment, whether it be malevolent or demonic attachment to this doll, what do you mean?
Basically that the entity, we'll just say the entity, is using the doll as a conduit, a means of communication.
It's kind of like a ventriloquist dummy, kind of holding it on its lap. And
like like that, or maybe as an you can say it through like an amplifier, as if you're you know projecting sound or voice, or just a means of communication. It's a conduit, basically. Yeah.
And in the dark room, how many of these objects do you think you have?
There's not as many in there, which is kind of, I feel, good and bad. Good means they're in there and they're not out in amongst the public sector, but bad meaning that there definitely could be more out there that haven't been found yet, haven't been removed and kept away from people. I would say probably count here. Let me see, one, two, about 20 items.
You have 20 items there. That's not a
Yeah,
little
and
bit, Steve. I was thinking like 5. I'm like, all right, well, I mean, that's still a lot. No, 20.
I've, I've got there's a few things.
Which one is the most
I start
unlikely thing you'd think you'd have in there?
The most unassuming thing would be, well, in a way, would be the 666 Bible, just because it's a Bible. But then again, anything I feel in like an inanimate object can become stained, if you will, with energy.
Okay, yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
No, what do you mean
Um,
the 666 Bible? Is that like a nickname you have for it, or is that like a?
that's just kind of what we need it, because the way the story goes, this guy from Glendale, I have his name somewhere on file. He contacted me and said he had something for me. He wants to. And this is back when I was still at the community center. So, and I said, yeah, man. I said, bring it in. We'll talk about it. That way I have a little bit of history to go with it. As people ask, why is it here? He wanted to be anonymous. So when you read the readout, there's X's where his name would be, but I have it on file, so I guess it's in file somewhere. Um, and he was going to college down around Huntington, which I assume was Marshall.
Probably
That's
Marshall.
the biggest university down there. And he said he and a buddy were going through this abandoned hospital, which turned out to be the Morris Memorial School for Crippled Children. And apparently, someone bought that and is fixing it up to do like assisted living or something like that with it. But he said they were going through down the hallway, and he looked through this one particular door's window, and there's in the room he looked into was this book open laying in the middle of the floor. And he went in there and looked, and he found that it was a Bible. There's an angel figurine sitting on top of it. And it was open to page 666. He said, well, I took the Bible as kind of a souvenir, and my friend took the angel figurine. I'm not thinking anything about it, of course. So he said nothing really happened until he got home. I got home from break, and I took my Bible out of my urbex and backpack, and then I put it on the mantle in my house. And he said, from that point, within 3 days, now remember the number 3. I thought it's really interesting. Just within 3 days after taking it out of his book backpack, the family cat died, the family dog got sick, and his mom got sick. And for the 3 days, during this whole ordeal, he would hear his name whispered throughout the house.
Oh.
Most of the time, no one was home. On the 3rd day, he let his dog out in the backyard to do his business. Now, the backyard was fenced in, and it was shaped like an L. So on the back porch, he went out into the yard, and there was a little bit of an area off to the right behind a portion of the house that he couldn't see from the porch. And that's where the dog ran into. And then he heard it barking and growling and carrying on. He thought, well, this is weird. So he walked on through the yard to go see what was going on. As he approached that corner, the dog came running around the corner, ran past him, yelping, and ran into the house. And he said he went on to look around the corner in the yard, and he saw 3 shadow figures people standing in the yard. So he went back in the house, closed and locked the door, went through the house to the part of the house that he can overlook that part of the yard. And he said he got there was no one in the yard, no footprints in the grass, no one running down the alley or anything like that. And that's when he contacted me and said he was going to donate the book. Now on page 667, though, on the top of the page, it's actually singed. You see where there's like a little bit of a burn mark, which I find interesting. So it's safe to say that Bible was being used in a manner other than directed.
Wow.
He tried to get a hold of his friend who took the angel figurine, but he couldn't get a hold of him. So I would say that would be the most unassuming item that's in there. Everything else in there pretty much creeps people out.
Yeah. Then you have the Bible. No, I will
Yeah, the Bible.
I will tell you, like again, back when I had an active group, we did a home, and this was in Bel Air, Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
and the home had some activity going on. Very pleasant family that lived there. We went through everything with them, and when we left, like I don't know how it happened. It was a number of years ago, right? I've slept since then, but we ended up with a bird cage, right?
Oh, really?
Just a regular, like a little parakeet bird cage. And I had a little
Huh.
brother I mean, he was probably 10, 11 years old, something like that. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And I'll go buy him a bird and, set it up for him. He'll love it. He loved it. All that. All of a sudden, he started he got real depressed and started having nightmares and crying all the
Mm-hmm.
time. And there was this point where he came down and he says, he's upset. I'm like, what, buddy, what's going on? And he said, all I can keep hearing in my head is suicide, suicide, suicide. That bird found a new home, and that bird cage went in the dumpster real quick. I was
Oh
like,
no. Oh.
there's only one thing I know that came that shouldn't be here, and I got rid of that sucker. And
That
everything.
happened. A friend of mine had a Bible that they started hearing a woman singing in their house, and they didn't know me at the time, and her husband got rid of the Bible.
Wait,
Like,
and you know what? This is kind of lead me into my next question for you too, because
yeah.
you think of like haunted museums, and it always comes back to like Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Oh yeah,
With
absolutely.
the haunted dolls, Annabelle, they had like locked in a cage, like a little box. Um,
Yeah.
but they had like people coming in and praying over it like almost nightly, like in this building.
Yeah.
What do you do in your museum to, I guess, do I say keep the peace, keep the safety, stop them from getting out? What do you do?
The thing is, I honestly wait until someone asks me, because with the way the world is today, there's like 50,000 different things that people are going to choose to follow for their religion or the spiritual protection or whatever, So I find it best for people to ask me, and that way I can respond to how I personally would do it. How I would approach spiritual protection. Me, I am ordained. I come from a Christian standpoint, which of course gives me a lot of weird looks when they say, "Okay, but you're Christian, but you collect this." I'm like, yeah, because
Well,
when it
better
comes
you
down
than
to it,
others, right?
well, I mean, it, if no one's going to be there to help people, if you're just a Christian in church and not outside the church, how are you going to help people? And when you look at it, Christ didn't always preach in the temple either. He was out amongst the people. So there's a lot of people who do that, but there's not enough people who take take their faith and take their gifts out there to the masses to help them. Just my opinion on them. My view on the matter. So there's been a lot of people ask me, "Hey, this is going on in my house, or this is going on with me. What do you think I should do?" And that opens a line of communication up, because they approach me, they ask me, and now out of free will, I can respond to them how I personally would choose to deal with it, and then they can take it for for what it's worth. You know, that's pretty much my approach on the matter.
So let me ask you this,
Um,
and I'm gonna like kind of tie it in because you brought it up. You're an ordained minister. Um,
yeah.
how do you view hauntings? And I'm saying
Um,
this just so everybody's clear that's listening to me too. I as well am an ordained minister and I have my views, but I'm really curious to see how alike our views are, because we've never discussed this together before. How alike and what
right.
differences we have in that, because everything that is around us, it builds up our faith and our ideals, with things. So I'm really curious, how do you view hauntings? How do you view ghosts?
The main thing I start off with is I always respond to this type of question. You know, God is not the author of confusion.
Mm.
He's not a he doesn't want things to be as complex for us. That's why he made salvation that easy for us. Which I take that and apply it to my view on ghosts and stuff like that. Do I believe that there's residual energy out there? Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's a good possibility. I do believe in angels. I do believe in demons. Do I believe, that there's intelligent spirits out there that are not demonic, that are not angelic? No one can really answer that 100% because no one has died and come back and offered us physical proof that's undeniably accurate. That's
Yeah.
true. That is truth. So, my opinion, I go with I expect for the worst, hope for the best. So if I'm investigating, and we'll take the Hope doll for example.
Yeah.
I've had mixed reviews on that. They go, well, it's just a little girl and she's scared, or she's looking for help. I'm like, a rational mind, would want to help, a little child in despair. But on the other hand, with the evidence that's been given, the scratching, the pushing, the heavily oppressive feeling that most people have gotten from her, would, to me, and myself included, would heavily agree with the fact that it's manipulation.
Yeah.
The great, has been used in a few movies and stuff, but I firmly agree in it. The greatest thing the devil's ever done is convinces people he doesn't exist.
Mm.
The whole Trojan horse concept. Oh, this is a great gift. This is something amazing. You welcome it in. All of a sudden, boom. You have issues. And it doesn't matter what time frame, because we're not, they're not on our time. We're on their time. It could be a few days, a few weeks, or a few years. Gradual decay. Gradual spiritual decay. And before people realize, you've got some big problems to deal with. If you can still identify the problem, and it comes down to that person listening to other people say, "Hey, you've got a problem. You need to work on it." It's just one big mess that way. So I believe in angels. I believe in demons, and again, I expect the worst, hope for the best. So the whole residual energy and intelligent entity thing, I guess it's possible.
Yeah,
But
I love that.
if they've already,
Go ahead.
oh, okay. But if they already passed on, if they're already on the other side of life, is other than where we're at, there's not much. I don't believe there's not much you can do for that. I don't feel that. I personally feel as a child before the age of accountability, if they unfortunately pass away for whatever reason, I believe they're going straight to heaven, to paradise, because they haven't been really scarred and maimed by the world. So
Yeah, I like that that definition. It's kind of how my brain always went through it as well. Residual hauntings. For those folks that are listening that are new to all this, right? Residual haunting would be like think of like a VCR, playing a movie back. VCR, does that date me a little? Like
that's
watching a
good.
movie play over and over, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so like a heavy emotion can get trapped in an area. Think of, you know,
It's kind of like I always use this little example too. It's like you have a table and you have a pitcher of water, and you take the pitcher of water and you pour it over the table. 99% of the water will go to the floor. And there's the 1% that's the dampness on top of the table, which you would kind of consider it the residual aspect of the pitcher of water itself. So what's left is something after most of it has gone or has left.
that's great. And it's also, it's not like interacting with you. It's recorded in that area.
Correct.
You know, so
It's like stone
if,
tape theory.
say it again.
The stone tape theory.
Share it
Yeah,
with us.
that's basically what they kind of worded it back in the day.
But with the intelligent hauntings, that would be interactive. Like,
Yes.
you know, is there anybody there? Knock, and all of a sudden, you know, that is more of an
I
intelligent
heard
haunting.
that. I heard that. Did you
Did you
document that?
did you hear? Come with me if you want to live. Now, so like with those, you know, what is it? Where is it? And I'm with you on that. That, you know, things can be manipulated. You know,
Yeah,
I
I
have
mean,
a very similar
most
viewpoint on that.
in most demonic cases, you're dealing with kids, or
Mm,
what you're being presented with as kids.
confusion.
And most time it's
I
not.
had chills today. I was listening to a podcast today, um, and they were talking about it was a family that had a little girl. They quote unquote a spirit of a little girl in their home, and they realized it was there, and then they accepted it as one of them, and they invited it to things they went to, and when they moved, they had like a spiritual powwow and invited this quote unquote spirit to move with them to their new home. And I got
Wow.
chills with that because, you know, like you, I'm thinking, okay, that's manipulation. That's, you know, that's not a little
Yeah.
girl.
No.
You know, that's not Uncle Jimmy smoking a cigar at the end of the couch every night. Like something's going on that can cause confusion.
Right.
But with that really got to me because you're right. A lot of times you see this, it's always like a child.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, most any normal human being would want to help that child. So it's using good nature, the good in people to to go towards something not good, malevolent. And again, like I said, it comes down to they're not on our time, we're on their time.
Mm-hmm.
They have all the time in the world.
Now, Steve, how can people get in contact with you if they want to reach out to you know, let's say they have something going on in the area here, and they want a group to come
Um,
out, or you know, they want to visit your museum. What's the best way to contact you?
Anything involving haunted items and anything like that, each way to get a hold of me is through Facebook. So it's just Steve Hummel, or look up Archive of the Afterlife, also on Facebook. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me for whichever reason. And of course, if you're looking for a place, someone to come in and actually like investigate a place of business or home or anything like that, to get a hold of PQ, get a hold of the guys, Paranormal Quest. I just look up Paranormal Quest on Facebook. That's the easiest way to do that. And of course, you want to see some of our episodes, what we've done in the past. Just head over to YouTube and look up Paranormal Quest.
How many videos would
And
you say you have up there? How long have you guys been a group?
oh, it's been around 10 years.
Okay, so there's
Uh,
more than one video, right? Well, there's the haunted doll part 2, so
oh,
you at least have 2.
we have between live feeds and full lengths, probably I'd say over 50.
Okay, so
So
somebody can
or more.
definitely binge some Steve Hummel.
Oh, yeah, we have. There's enough PQ to binge for a while. Our episodes average anywhere from half hour to an hour.
Okay.
And we just cleared 85,000 subscribers, so
Oh wow,
closer and closer to 100. That's where we want to get. We want that silver button.
that's impressive, man. That's impressive. So go out there, definitely check out Paranormal Quest. Go subscribe. He's got a goal. He's got to hit it, and he's got to get that button. And then the
We want that up in our PQ office.
the museum. Is there a website for the museum as well, or do you run that strictly
Yeah,
off Facebook?
you can actually, you can find the museum website through the Facebook page, because it's www.archive-afterlife.weebly.com.
Can you spell that
That's why I just tell
just to
people.
make sure we can get it through with the audio?
Okay, www.archive ARCHIVE-AFTERWEEBLY.com.
Definitely go and check that out, guys. Steve, I got one more question for you. Your whole,
Sure.
I guess, idea for this museum was a trip to Gettysburg, right?
That's what started it. Yeah,
What
that's what
was
gave me the
the name of the place?
the International Museum of Spiritual Investigation.
Like
A very long title.
I'll have to check it out because our guest next week, right? Her name is Jolene Riley, and she runs the Gettysburg Paranormal Association. She's got a haunted
Oh,
museum, and it's all right there in Gettysburg. And I'm thinking, what are the chances? What are the
yeah, I
chances?
don't know. It was there goes my next idea.
Oh, what's that?
I was actually thinking about at one time I was going to do satellite locations, and the two kind of fell apart. This couple was out in Stockton, California. They ended up moving back to Ohio. I was going to have a satellite location out in California, then one down in Orlando. But, and I thought of Gettysburg at one time, but yeah.
Sorry, I messed something up.
Oh, shoot, no, man. My main place I'd love to go, if anywhere, it would definitely be Salem.
Oh yeah, dude, that is one
It's
place
just
I'd love to see.
crazy. I didn't want to leave. It was so nice up there.
No, when did you go there?
Well, we did over the past winter. We did a little trip, PQ trip, and we had 2 investigations. So our first investigation was the Conjuring House in Rhode Island.
Mm.
Then we did 2 nights after that on a Sunday. We did the USS Salem in Quincy, Massachusetts.
Now, did you guys the Conjuring House? Is that a PQ episode as well?
Oh yeah.
What did you guys get anything crazy there?
Nothing off the wall, but it was still nice to get that off of our bucket list.
Would you say that it's as active as people say? I mean, because that's a pretty well known.
I mean, my thing is, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't off the wall when we were there, but we've heard other people have been there when they were there. It was definitely, active. So I mean, that's like anywhere. I mean, I've walked through the penitentiary here in Moundsville. Some nights you just cannot wait to get out of the building because it's that heavy. And there's some days you just walk through and it's just like you're walking down the street. So you're going to have good days and bad days. So I think we had about a 60% night when we were there. But the cool thing that we had that we really got to do, we were very grateful to get to do, is we did a virtual walkthrough, FaceTime, if you will, with Andrea Perrin.
Who
was one of the daughters of that family during the exorcism.
Wow.
So she was there that night, basically, when the exorcism took place.
And then, like, she kind of told you the stories of what was going on while going through it, or?
Yeah, it was crazy. We're sitting there listening, standing in her childhood bedroom, hearing her tell about what happened to her in that area.
Man,
that's
intense.
Gosh,
that's intense.
In the house it's one of those small little. It's actually for sale now. It's back on the market. So you and I want to go halvesies on.
Go halvesies. What is it, like 1.2 million or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could come up with half of that.
Just put it on my tab. We got it.
How well is that museum doing now? Come on.
I wish it was a lot better than that. I'd put the museum in the garage building they have out there and just do it as a B&B and just call it a day.
Goodness gracious. All right, Steve, I appreciate you coming out with us. I appreciate you, being my first guest. Fireside Paranormal Podcast. I mean, I'll find some kind of button to give you for that.
Hey, I want a button.
And then, definitely check Steve out online. Check out his socials, and check out Paranormal Quest. I mean, they're getting up there in subscribers. That means there's some quality program coming out. So make sure you're checking that out. I want to go watch that Conjuring one, especially in the video. Do you have that FaceTime communication? Were you able to film that as well, or was there? Do you have some rules?
That's all part of the intro. Like every video we do, we try to do at least 1 to 2 interviews. I mean, let's put it this way: Ryan graduated from Point Park for cinema production in Pittsburgh,
Mhm.
and between, I mean, he and Dave's been busting their butts, and Jason as well. You know, keeping the content rolling. We try to put an episode out once a month or once a week.
Oh wow.
You know, so it's we're really trying to hit that 100,000 mark.
So you put out you do an investigation once a week?
That's what we've been trying to do. Yeah, I mean, they're right now. They had a last minute opportunity to go to Martinsburg and shoot, and of course I couldn't go. Um, so they're probably back from that today.
Wow.
So that'll be this week coming up.
Wow, that's an intense schedule.
Yeah, so right now we're at a point where with what we're pulling in AdSense wise, our Patreon, um, two of the four, were able to like quit their jobs and dedicate the time to keep that once a week tempo going. So eventually we're hoping we'll get to the point where Jason and I can actually join that and draw a little pay from the channel. So
Oh
that
yeah.
way we can all allocate more time for production of PQ.
So I was thinking it was more local. How far out do you guys, travel for this?
Well, we like to travel anywhere we can, but it comes down to what we can afford. So
Yeah.
southwise, the farthest we investigated was Savannah, Georgia. We did the Moon River Brewery, and that's definitely a two-parter you want to check out. It's the episode's called The Most Haunted City in America, Part 1, and then there's Part 2. Farthest north would be, I think, Quincy, Massachusetts. As far west, there's been a few locations out in Indiana. Did Crown Point Jail, and that's the jail that John Dillinger escaped from. They did Indiana State Hospital. I missed that one, unfortunately. They got to do Whispers Estate. And then there's like Kentucky, Ohio. Yeah. Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New York.
And then the valley here.
Yeah, we just do what we can.
Man, that's quite the schedule. So at first I was saying, hey, if you're local, and you got something going on, contact Steve. But man, you ain't even got to be local. If you're in the region,
no, if we can work it out budget wise, we'd like to get to where we can travel wherever, and we were excited when we had 100 subscribers. We just wanted to be able to share what our initial plan was, to share our investigations and make a few extra bucks to pay for gas money, to drive somewhere. And if we made enough to pay to one of these places that charges you an arm and a leg to go into, now it's been doing pretty well for us.
Now, is your goal to, I guess, be YouTube specific, or are you wanting to get like a TV series out of this? Like, what's the goal there?
I mean that topic's always come up. What would happen if we were offered an opportunity, to do a TV gig for however long? I mean, I'm sure we would be very grateful for that, and we would look at it as an opportunity to go places we wouldn't normally get to go.
Mm.
It wouldn't be, okay, how much money are you going to make? I mean,
Yeah.
as long as it's covered the travel and stuff, and shoot, we'll just be grateful to get to go to places, like I said, we wouldn't normally get to go to.
Well, that's real cool, Steve.
We love ghost stuff, but we're also history nuts. So.
Now, not to brag on Steve either, he's also got some poetry books that he's put out. He does, by commission art that is, I mean, he's good. He's not just throwing paint on a sheet of paper and saying, hey, look, I'm a ghost guy. The dude's got some talent. You're like a Renaissance man.
Too many irons in the fire.
That's right.
I gotta pay the bill somehow.
I hear you. All right, Steve, thank you so much for coming out and hanging out with us tonight. Really appreciate it. Gonna have you back on. And I talked about when we get in the studio, I want to have you on. I want you to bring some items. Can you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, we definitely need to do some more stuff together. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Appreciate you. Next week on the show, like I said, Jolene Riley, we're going to be talking about Gettysburg ghosts, one of the most, top haunted areas in the U.S. We're going to hear some stories from her. She also has a museum. We're going to talk about some of the items that she collects there around Gettysburg. It's going to be a lot of fun. So until next week, everybody, don't be afraid, only believe.